Back live, joined by Chris Forman and Associate Strategic Communications Director, but Director of Social Media and an Internet. He's an Internet hero. I guess we're going to use. No, we were laughing offline here before about Chris's role of dealing not only in social media, but dealing with every angle of all that. And Brian obviously is well tuned to that, but. Chris, welcome to the show. I think the last time you were on, we were sitting in director's chairs at the north end of Ross-Ade Stadium, if I recall. A little warmer, but this Zoom thing's not all bad when it comes to this because we can kind of do it and be done with it, and that part's nice. But very uneventful week for Purdue basketball, certainly, huh?
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot going on. So, just status quo, I guess.
Yeah, that is an understatement at all. Brian, fire away. You're up next.
Hey, Chris, part of your job obviously is managing like the image of the program. It seems like you guys have done an awful lot with that over the last few years. It's probably not a coincidence either that, recruiting has done fairly well since that time. What is the image you guys are trying to get across? How would you kind of articulate it? What do you want people to view Purdue basketball as?
I think, a lot of it comes back to kind of Coach Painter's personality. He's become, the last few years, much more comfortable in himself. So it's allowed us to be able to kind of portray that a little bit better and to, tell the stories of our players and to get our players, more out there. So, the great thing about Coach Painter's recruiting is that he recruits great kids. I can go back, when I first got here, they weren't, the teams weren't that great and I liked the guys, but some of them were a little bit more difficult to deal with than others. So I'll just say the year was 2013-14, so you can leave it at that.
I have stories.
Yeah.
But, just the guys on the team this year, they kind of reflect, Coach Painter's personality, I think. And so it just makes it really easy to portray the image of the team and to, just kind of get done what we want to do. And Coach Painter, lets us do our thing and we go from there.
That has been a ongoing storyline with college athletics, just as how much image is being put together. And you're also involved with the Gold Standard, which is a video montage, or not montage, telling the story. I think that's one of the things you guys have done a really good job of creating personalities out of those guys. The fan base, I think, feels like they know what Eric Hunter's like. They know a little bit about Travion Williams, what he really is like. Tell us about that, how that's all come together, and as you continue to tell that story, the challenges and the good and the bad with that.
So it came about, it's kind of an extension. A few years ago, we did a series called In the Arena,
right?
Which was a little more kind of game day centered and game week centered than what we're doing now. But it kind of came about in probably May, June, July, in that time frame to kind of just go behind the scenes, because we knew the likelihood of having fans was going to be, pretty small at that time. So we just wanted to kind of get our stories and our name out there a little bit more than we have been. I'm fortunate to work with, a great video crew. Taylor Smith, is handling most of the basketball stuff, and she travels with us everywhere we go. And she's had a huge role in that and telling the stories and editing them all and coming up with storylines. So, it's turned into a really fun project. I think, we really enjoy doing them. We've got one kind of in the works right now with Mason Gillis, just, coming back from injury and the role he's starting to play on the team. And, it's just another way to let our fans, see who our players are a little bit off the court and just kind of, what stories they have from their past experiences.
Yeah. What's changed for you in your role this year with the pandemic going on? Obviously not having fans in the arena, but also trying to get people like me to take themselves off mute on Zoom press conferences.
Yeah, that's the biggest struggle right now.
That's hard.
Kind of like herding cats. How is it different kind of managing the image of the program, orchestrating media and all that stuff now? It's really weird.
I don't know if it's that different. Obviously the biggest thing is, you guys not being in person. That it makes a big impact because, you probably haven't gotten to really know the players as well as you would like to. It's hard to get to really know them over Zoom calls.
Right.
So that's probably the biggest challenge is, doing the Zoom calls every day. And, our guys, I'm not sure if they like them or not. But they, it's just a little bit different for them. But honestly, we're trying to do the same thing and bring the program to the fans the best we can. We would do that with fans in Mackey Arena. We would do it without. So that aspect of it hasn't really changed a whole lot.
Yeah, you look at that, and again, bringing that image, and you've got guys with strong personalities, and they do come out that way. But Zoom is just can be a tough medium from that standpoint, especially if you're not doing a lot of media or just getting used to doing it all the time, I think. But
yeah,
you also obviously part of this week was a harrowing experience on Monday night, traveling to Maryland the first time and then coming back to Indianapolis. And you can share with what you want, but maybe to also reflect on maybe 3 days later what impact it may have had on the team, but also on you. I mean, you were sitting in that plane as well.
I will say I'm a fairly emotional person. I think people understand that about me. I think I'm getting better, but at the same time, it's a little bit different for me. So, I'm not going to lie. I was a little scared and shaken up by it. We got to about the flight tracker. According to the flight tracker, we got to about Columbus and had to turn around. And to be honest, I didn't even know we turned around. I was watching a show on Netflix on my phone, and I had no clue we turned around. But we were up in the air and we were kind of tilting, about 10, 15 degrees, each way probably. And it was just like, I don't get motion sickness. I've never had motion sickness. In my stomach, I was like, man, I feel like I'm going to throw up. And it just, it's different that way. And then we probably got about 15, 20 minutes out from landing, or 25 minutes or so. And, the attendants come on and say there's a situation and stuff. So, we didn't exactly know how serious it was until they started going through, some emergency landing protocols. And, you kind of realize like, well, this is real. So fortunately they figured out, I think how to get the landing gear down, which I think was the biggest thing. So, and I'm not sure how they did that. I'm sure, aviation people maybe watching this know how that happens or whatever, but and then when you land and you see fire trucks and ambulances waiting for you, you realize that they were expecting something to happen. So obviously, we're very lucky and very blessed to be, able to land safely. And we just got a new plane and switched flights and flew back in to Maryland, landed about midnight on Monday night. So played the game, but I talked to a couple players the next morning, and they were pretty shaken up by it. So I don't think it obviously didn't have any effect on the game. The guys, I think, were focused on playing the game, but for a little while there, it was definitely a harrowing experience for me.
Yeah, I can vouch for. I have this knack for texting people at the worst possible times. I can vouch for the fact that Chris didn't know he was in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I thought he was
messing with me.
Or we were in the plane and, you turn your phone on and land, a minute or you get service, a minute or two or whatever before you land. And Brian texts me and he goes, "Hey, did you guys have to turn around?" I'm like, what? I have no idea what you're talking about. So they didn't tell us where we were. So when we landed, I honestly thought we were in Baltimore. So that was a little bit different, but whatever. We got back out to Baltimore and everything was safe after that.
Yeah, I was in the school board meeting and looking at some friend of the family who we all know who was watching. We do not track you on flight, or at least I don't, on all your flights. So, and yet that was, and then I saw those texts between all of you. It was very
well.
Very,
I landed and I probably had 10 or 12 emails asking what happened. And again, like I didn't know. And then I would check Twitter and there were people asking, "Hey, why'd you guys turn around?" I'm like, Don't, I didn't know we did, but
And apparently there were a lot of people following you on FlightAware, which is
yes.
another interesting dynamic of the world we live in. One of the things that's always impressed me about you is that you do, you're an emotional guy. But you talk openly. I think you've been open about the challenges of and the need for not just mental illness, but just the fact that what it can play on people's lives, not just yours, but everybody's. And you tie this into the pandemic and everything else. That always is something that I have a great deal of respect that you've been able to bring that part out, because we don't talk about it enough. How is that not just from your own personal perspective, but as you watch other student athletes and other people you work with, it's all a lot for us to deal with.
Yeah. I think obviously some people deal with it a lot better than others. Like we've said, I'm emotional. So sometimes it's hard for me to, take the emotion out of it.
Yeah.
I've said some things probably on social media that I regret, and done some things that we've done, but at the same time, when emotionally, you kind of have to take a step back and realize that I'm on social media way too much. I can admit that. My wife will tell me that. So it's something that I'm really trying to work on, just at nights, watching TV or whatever. So, but yeah, it's a challenge, especially when you lose. You have a lot of fans that come in and leave comments, and it's, a lot of times, when we lose, I've learned to just, ignore it, just switch to my account and just shut down, Twitter or whatever for the night, because I don't want to read them, because, it'll get me upset or worked up, and, I don't need that. So, the mental health part of it, again, it's just something you got to do, and take time for yourself and focus on, yourself and your family, and just try and make the best situation out of what comes.
Yeah. Having run a message board for 20 years, I can tell you this is precisely what has made me a nihilist.
Yeah. Nihilist is the right
I am joking. I'm not a nihilist. If anybody gets angered by nihilism, please don't email me. What is your stance with your players in terms of, do you want them active on it? Do you want them staying away from it for all of the reasons that you say? What advice would you give them?
We want them active. I think it's part of player branding, and especially with name, image, likeness coming up. All the legislation that's coming down the way. I want them active, but we tell them, be smart about it, and don't post stuff that's going to affect you negatively. Usually, our guys aren't on social media a ton as it is. They don't tweet a whole lot. They're more Instagram people. So, they've done a really good job with it. We'll feed them stuff after games. After every game, we load photos into a program called Influencer, and they can do whatever they want with them. We'll send them videos here and there. So they've been, I've been really impressed. They've been very smart with it. And, they, like I said, they're good kids. They know what to do and know what's right and wrong. So, I think it's just kind of part of the world that we live in now, that, when they miss a free throw, that's gonna, that could win the game. I remember last year after we lost to Rutgers, Eric Hunter's, handle was not a great place to be. His mentions weren't, very nice, because he missed a free throw that would have won us the game in regulation. And, so you're going to get people like that. But the best part, I tell them, you can mute them, you can block them, you can, just ignore them. So, like I said, I think they've done a really good job with it, and we try and just build their brand the best we can.
And this is your 8th year here at Purdue, but you've been around college sports for a long time. Every team has personality. This team has one. Again, maybe a credit. It is a credit to the job that you do too, that they're likable. Seems to be at least from my perspective, and I'm separated a little bit, but they just seem like a good group of people. What makes this group unique? Are they a lot different than the other 8 Purdue teams you've been around? And what do you look at them making that next step this year, next year, whenever, is that personality there to do that in your view?
Yeah, I think this team is a lot more loose than, teams I've been around. When I think back to, like Vince and Dakota and PJ and Isaac in that group, they were very businesslike. They were always working, and not saying this team isn't always working, but they were very, just really, like, hey, let's get the job done, that kind of thing. This group, I think they're really loose, and, that's a great thing. They just have a lot of confidence about themselves. Brandon and Jaden are, they're constantly just joking around in practice and, having a good time. And, I think you can see it on the floor, especially with Jaden. He's excited, he's emotional, and, you see it that way. Travion's the same way. He dances too much on TikTok, for me, but I'm not a TikTok guy, but, he's a fun guy to be around. So, and not to say the other teams weren't fun to be around, but this team just feels like they're a little bit more looser than the other teams we've been around.
Yeah. Brian, we've got time for one more. Fire away.
Hey, just tell us what it's like working with Matt Painter. I mean, he's a pretty honest guy. He's kind of an open book. SIDs sometimes have to bury skeletons in the backyard. I don't think you have to do that very often. He would seem like an easy guy to work with.
He's really easy.
Doesn't worry about things that aren't important, doesn't seem like.
No, he doesn't worry about things that are important. He lets us do our thing, especially on social media. He's really loosened up there. A few years ago, he wouldn't let us in the locker room. Now he's letting us in the locker room. I think he's starting to see the importance of it a little bit, just getting him out there. And he, like I said earlier, he's just much more comfortable with himself. So like he's done a lot more interviews this year, I think, than he has in the past. And that might be pandemic related. I don't know, but, he's just, he's really easygoing. The other day after shoot around, he showed me a video he was watching of this Houston Astros pitcher that I had never heard of, who was like 6'10", who had an insane amount of strikeouts one year. So he's just watching a highlight video of him and just was talking about him. And his knowledge of sports is amazing. I mean, it's amazing. It's incredible. I remember, a few years ago, we're at the NCAA tournament out in Denver, and we're 2 nights before the game against Little Rock, unfortunately, whatever. We're in a restaurant, and we're all in this one room, and we are rattling off NBA players. I mean, from 1975 to whenever it was. And he was naming their alma mater of every single player we could throw out there. And I mean, it was mind blowing how much knowledge he has about sports. And, that's just kind of the way he is. He just, he's a basketball coach. That's what he loves to do. And, it's great working with him. He is very laid back and very easygoing. And, I'm glad we've been able to get him out there a little bit more this year.
Yeah, I think he has an unbelievable. I suspect he'll be coaching basketball as long as he wants to. But if he ever wanted to get into the television realm, he's just got such a knowledge base that I think he'd be outstanding.
I think he'd be like an incredible general manager.
Yeah.
Just because of his knowledge of players and what they can bring and how to control teams and work and mold teams. Like, I think he'd be just a phenomenal general manager if he ever, that opportunity comes down the road or whatever. Yeah. I hope he stays here for a long time, but that's the one thing I could see him really doing.
Interesting. I think that's an interesting insight. All right, Chris, thanks so much. We appreciate your work and all the work you do with Brian. We're grateful for that. We also are grateful for your time today, and we'll look forward to tomorrow afternoon's game against Northwestern as the Boilermakers take on the Wildcats, I believe, on Big Ten Network as well. So have a good rest of your Friday, and we'll look forward to talking again soon.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.